What's up, everybody? Your boy Blake, Money Blake Weather, Loaded Joe's MMA podcast. How's it going? Going good? Guys, real quick, I just want to shout out my sponsors while waiting for some of y'all to log in. Again, NOP Media, check them out, man. Fight Book MMA, Total Nutrition Amarillo, Austin Kickboxing Academy, Zen Soap, and who am I forgetting? Gear Athletics. GetGearWorldwide.com, ladies and germs. I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. And while I said we're going to have a new different format, you'll see. We will have a new different format. And it's going to be quite nice. And once we get that fully operational, it's going to be amazing. I'm going to take a show to a place that I've always wanted to get to and where I know it could be. So, yeah, definitely excited for that. But without further ado, tonight I do have a host of Loudmouth MMA. I was just on his show Saturday. Thought I'd bring him on my show. He can't see me because of the setup that we have, but it don't matter. He can hear my sexy voice. We got the one, the only, Kyle Steele. Kyle, let's get ready for these people to see your handsome face. And let's see if they can. Oh my God, they can see you, man.
Hello.
What's going on, Kyle? How you doing, man?
That was a hell of an introduction, man.
Well, you know, I've been known to do that a time or two. How's everything going with you, brother?
Oh, it's going. Long day. But I'm ready to talk some podcasting, and I'm ready to talk some UFC 207. Except let me pull up my notes real quick, man. I had some stuff on 207, and I don't have it up anymore.
Pull up your notes, because I don't got my notes pulled up, and I don't feel like pulling up no notes.
Right? I need to see the card. I need to see the card, at least.
Exactly, man. Yeah, pull up the card, and then I'll have you just talk about the fights on the card, and then we'll go from there. But Kyle, man, you're in the podcast game. I want to give a shout out real quick to Roberto Villa from Fight Book MMA. What's up, Roberto? I'm gonna click like on your comment. Kyle, you're in the podcast game. What made you want to do this, man? Talk to me, brother.
I think the thing that made me want to go into the MMA podcast world initially was probably the interviews. I mean, obviously, wanting to talk to fighters, I think that's a fascinating thing. But furthermore, I just kept noticing, and this isn't like, I'm not talking shit, like I'm not that kind of person. But I did, I would hear all these podcasts that I love, and all the interviews sounded the same. You know, they all kind of had the same, like, tone. They all seemed, like, rushed, and they didn't seem very conversational. So, kind of what made me want to start a podcast was I wanted to, A, talk to fighters, and B, I wanted to take a different approach to the interviews. And that was basically it, and it kind of just spiraled from there. But, I mean, that was my initial thing was, you know, because, again, I don't want to do something. I'll try to look at the camera. I have my microphone set up off to the side because I'm not normally on video. But, you know, I don't think I would want to do this if I didn't feel like I was adding something to the universe, the MMA podcasting universe, because there's so many MMA podcasts.
Right.
So if I didn't feel like I was adding something at least unique, I probably wouldn't want to do it. So I guess in short, that's really all it was. Just wanting to try to do something a little bit different, especially with the interviews. And then realizing my own limitations, like I'm not an analyst. Like I'm just not. I'm not a. I'm not. I love talking about fights, but I'm not. Like I've heard you talk about fights. I can't do that. Like I'm not there. I'm not that analytical with this stuff. But what I can do is I can get good people on the show who are analytical, right, and give them space to talk, right, and I can. I'm good at having conversations. So, and I'm good at getting people to talk. So that's my strength, is getting you to talk, getting you as the analyst to give up everything. You give up all that information. So that's the other part of it, is just kind of knowing your strength. And I think my strength is conversations, so that's why I went into the podcast world, and that's what I'm going to continue doing.
Absolutely, man. How long have you been doing this?
So I posted my first episode about 50 days ago.
Dang.
That was the first one. I know. It's been a wild ride. And it's about to get more wild. I don't know if you saw the update from earlier today, but it's about to get even more wild.
Which update? Oh, the one you sent me?
Well, so it's live now. So that's now official. It's out in the public realm.
That is dope, man. So, old Bruce Buffer, huh?
Yeah, interviewing Bruce Buffer for a new podcast series I'm starting. It's going to be, on the Loudmouth channel, the Loudmouth MMA channel. But it's a show called A Day in the Life. And the idea was, again, I want to offer something unique and you kind of do this too, so it's not super unique. I swear I came up with this independent of you, but you kind of do what I was going to do. So I appreciate that you're doing that. It's called A Day in the Life, and the idea is to talk to non-fighters about other aspects of MMA. So for instance, I'm going to have a cut man on the show to talk all about being a cut man. Right?
Right.
The ins and outs of being a cut man. I'm going to have Jimmy Smith, the main commentator from Bellator.
Yeah.
He's coming on the show. Yeah, the main commentator for Bellator. He's going to come on and just talking about commentating. I'm going to have Bruce Buffer come on and talk about announcing. I'm going to have Chuck O'Neal, who was the corner man for Eric Spicely when he got that huge upset win.
Oh, yeah. Over Thiago Santos. Or was that who it was?
He was Santos, and I'm going to have Chuck come on the show and just talk about being a cornerman, like just talk about that one specific aspect. He's not going to talk about anything else, right? Just talk about being a cornerman and prepping. I'm having a mental coach come on. Guy's name is I want to say Jeff Jordan. He's going to come on and just talk about being a mental coach, right? So I just wanted to take all these different aspects of MMA that I feel like we don't ever hear from. I've never heard an interview with a cut man. I mean, personally, I guess I haven't searched that hard, but, I've never really heard it. So I would love to talk to a cut man. You know what I mean? I want to ask Bruce Buffer, does he ever get, so jacked up during a fight that he starts cheering and realizes that he can't do that,
Yeah, he does, man.
I know. I've seen it.
It's crazy.
It's exciting.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, it's pretty funny to see him do that, man. And I've also... I'll get you in contact with a guy I know. I've had Stitch Duran on an episode. He's amazing to have on. Who else? Mark Law's a great cutman. There's a lot of guys out there, man, that got some good stories. So that's exciting. I think that's a great avenue that people don't do or don't pay enough attention to. And Roberto's saying, Fightbook MMA, we interviewed a cut man and a cut woman. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's right. It was a written interview a while ago. So yeah, man, kudos for that. But yeah, man, it's interesting. It's good to get that look and get that perspective on just something new in the MMA world. Not just you're a fighter fighting. Let's talk about fighting, and then talk about your training, and let's talk about fighting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah. No.
Well, the other cool thing I think too, with doing it in a series, is you get all of those interviews, from the announcers, from the Octagon girls, from all those, all in one place, right? So there's always interviews, with like he said with a cut man. There's interviews with Bruce Buffer. There's interviews with Octagon girls. But let's get them all in one place and all kind of in a similar conversational style.
Right, for sure, man, for sure. And on that note, man, of just trying to be different, just having a podcast for me was a fucking pain in the ass, dude. It was beyond ridiculous just getting started or knowing where to start. Because I was like, I'm really good at talking. How do I get this up? I remember I recorded it and I had software to record it. And I had no idea where to put it. I'm like, I got this. I just need to put this. Where's the iTunes link? I'm going to go to iTunes. I'm just going to send this off to iTunes. Where's the Stitcher link? I'm just going to send this to Stitcher. And then it's like, nah, you can't do that. You got to get an RSS code. Well, what the fuck is an RSS code? I'm not a technician. I'm a, MMA entertainment personality, analyst, podcast host. Like, I don't know nothing about no RSS code, man. I don't know how familiar you were when you started a podcast with any of that lingo. And for anybody who doesn't know, I'll definitely break it down to you because I just had the hell of a time, man, just even getting started or knowing where to start. And there were no, like, videos of, like, go to this side or go to this side. So I think I want to know, like, kind of, you don't have to give out all your secrets, but, like, how did you figure out RSS code? What's a website maybe you use or recommend? Because, like, me personally, I used Podcast Garden. It cost me $2.99. I put my episodes on there. You upload your episodes, and you can do as many as you want to in a month, and it gives you an RSS code. And this code is basically just, gibberish. Basically, it's a link that you submit to iTunes and Stitcher, and all of a sudden, it embeds your feed, your pictures, and any words you add to it. That's basic? I mean, I put that in a nutshell, man. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, so I'm going to be honest. I cheated.
Oh, you cheating some bitch.
I had a good friend. He helps me with marketing for the podcast. I won't say his name because he's good at what he does, and I don't want to get his door beaten down. But he got the art. Now I have since learned a lot about it, but going into it, I knew not. I mean, this is going to sound uber cliche, and I don't want it to, but I basically just woke up one day and said, "Yeah, I'm just going to do this. Like, I'm just going to do this. Like, I don't know how to do it. I don't know. I don't own a mic. I literally didn't own a mic. I mean, nothing. I just woke up one day and I said, yeah, like, I want to do this. How do I do it? And I knew. So part of if you want to start a podcast, kind of number one is you have to just decide to do it. That's number one. And you already know this.
Yeah.
Right? But, like, you already know this, right? But number one, you have to literally just wake up and go, yeah, I'm going to do this thing now. Right? And then number two is you have to know where to look or who to ask. That's kind of step two.
Yeah.
You know the right stuff to Google. So we just talked about RSS feed. I personally go through SoundCloud, but that's not the most cost-effective way.
Right. No, that's money, man. That's a lot of money.
It cost me about $15 a month to keep that. I love SoundCloud. I have no interest in changing it. I don't mind paying the $15 a month. But that's not a very cost-effective way to do it. And there was some cost involved in getting your stuff onto iTunes and through SoundCloud and that kind of thing too. So that's not the most cost-effective way. There's better ways, I think, to go about it. The way that you just talked about sounds like a better way.
Yeah,
to be honest.
I literally, I did that. It was $2.99 a month, and I could upload all the content I wanted to. There's no additional fee because you have the RSS code. You just have to, physically, I think you pay for the work, but I physically had to go make a profile on the iTunes, go make a profile on the Stitcher, where if you pay other programs to do it, it might not be more cost effective, but it's more time effective, I guess, because you don't actually have to go there and do it. But yeah, I didn't want to spend a whole bunch of money. I didn't have a whole bunch of money to spend at first, like, I was just like, there has to be a real cheap way to do this, a real cost effective way to do this, and I'm entertaining enough, and goddamn it, I have a message the world needs to hear. So I'm going to be tenacious, and I'm going to, do what I need to do. I don't care if I have to stay up till 3 o'clock mixing shit, down and putting it up, and it, I don't care. Like, I have to do this. This is something that I feel passionate about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's a big piece to this puzzle is, I have 2 kids and a full-time job, and, I mean, this is almost more time-consuming than both of those.
Right.
I mean, I spend an obnoxious amount of time doing this. So you really have to love it, and you really have, when you decide to do this, you got to go all the way with it. I mean, because there's no point in half-assing anything in life. If you're going to half-ass it, just don't do it in the first place. So, save yourself the time and energy. But certainly you can't half-ass this. because it's not going to be any fun. You're not going to reach anybody. You're not going to, you know what I mean? Like you have to put in the time and the effort, and you have to just find time. You know, if you look at my calendar, it doesn't look like I have any time, but I still do, right? Because you just have to make it. There's a lot of hours in a day. I don't sleep very much. There's a lot of hours in a day.
Right,
you have to just make it work. You know, you just have to make it work. But you know all about that, man. You're doing great things over there at the Blood of Joe's.
Yeah, man, I'm definitely trying to, but it's not without, 2 years of putting in work and figuring out what doesn't work and what does work. And I want to make this part of this episode about that, just so people kind of get an understanding, because I feel like maybe there is a lot of people that have a voice, and maybe there's somebody that they know that's really smart at technology. They could combine heads and not have technical problems like I did tonight. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could be.
Well, and the fear is that you're immortalizing in your mind, depending on how you look at it, right? But you're immortalizing trial and error, right? So if you're going through the process of learning how to do the podcast, so your first few episodes, your first 100 episodes, who knows, right? You're immortalizing you learning how to do something. And that's a very scary thought. I'm going to look back at some of my early interviews and go, what was I doing? What was I talking about, right? Like, why did I say that? Why did I ask that? Why didn't I do this? Now, thankfully, I don't have that kind of personality, so I'm hoping that I won't. And I haven't felt the desire to go back and overanalyze. But at the same time, like, that's a scary thought, that you're immortalizing this trial and error. You're immortalizing trying to figure out what you're doing. That's scary. That's a scary thing. So you have to go into this, I think, with a certain level of fearlessness as well. And if you listen to, I got a chat. I don't know if you listened to the interview with Robin Black.
Yeah,
I think you did. I think
I heard the whole. I love the whole thing about it.
Yeah, he's fantastic. He was a blast. But that's one of the things that we talked about, right? Which was just, you have to be fearless, and if you're not, you're going to have a hard time doing a lot of things. Certainly, I think having your own podcast. I mean, right now, like when you said we were doing a video, I mean, when we were talking about this earlier, as I came down to the basement, hopefully I've seemed comfortable, but I'm not comfortable doing a video. I mean,
yeah,
right. That's why I do an audio podcast.
Right, exactly.
But part of being fearless is you have to just do these things. Like, you have to say, like, this is a good opportunity. I've never done a video like this before, so, like, let's peel the Band-Aid off and let's do one, and kind of get that out of the way. And now this is going to exist in video form for a long time, right? I can't go back and change it. Can't go back and if I say something stupid, it's there forever.
Yeah.
That is a scary thing. So I think everyone, if you're going into a podcast, like, you have to just know that and accept it. I mean,
it's weird. It's real different too from when you're doing, and not to say some people that don't do it live are not fearless. Blah blah blah. Like, there's a bunch of people that do cut and edit their shit, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it does take you're right, man. It does take a certain level of fearlessness to go in every time I do an interview, and I'm doing it live. So if I fuck up, and I don't care. Like, I literally, I don't care. I don't care if I get a fight wrong and I've been drinking, like I did on your podcast. I said something about Paige fighting Shevchenko. I didn't even meet Paige or Shevchenko. Yeah. I met Rose and I met Karina Kovacevic. I totally meant them. I saw their faces in my head, and I was drunk off my ass. And but I don't care. Like, I literally didn't care. I don't care when I do live stuff. I care about the content. I care about having a good time, I think, is what I care about the most. And you do have to kind of have that mindset, man. Like, podcasting is not for everyone. But for the people that get inspired by this and continue with their next steps, I hope that we give them little pieces of gems to, vibe off of. You know what I mean? Because this game it's so convoluted. The podcast game is so convoluted. Just the podcast game in general, the MMA podcast game is so convoluted because you got all these broadcasters, and you're not a broadcaster. I'm not a broadcaster. I've never gone to school for broadcasting. I went to school for commercial music management. That's how I figured out how to edit and do shit. But, like, I'm not broadcast. I'm not going to ask broadcaster questions. I'm not going to ask, well, what do you think of da-da-da-da-da-da-da? You're like, I don't give a fuck, I don't give a fuck. Like, I want to know, like, what's your day like? Like, what do you like to drink, man? Like, okay, so what are we talking about? Like, I don't know anything other than that. And maybe we'll talk about fighting. Who the hell knows? You know what I mean? So that's really my approach on this, and I think it's all about having that unique perspective, and that's what segregates, a good podcast from a great podcast. That's what segregates, this podcast. It's like, in this big pool, you could be a big fish in a little pond. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get out that pond and be in a different pond, and if people want to hop over to that, great. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Weird thing,
No, for sure. And me personally, I've been seeing what you're doing, and I think you're doing a great job. And so whatever it is, I usually, I talked about it on that episode with Robin Black. Like, I don't really analyze myself too much, and I think I think you kind of have to do that to be successful a little bit. I mean, you don't want to go too far in the opposite because you have to always be striving to improve. But again, like you were talking about, there's just a lot of MMA podcasts. There's a lot of them. And if you're just breaking down fights, and if you're just kind of having boilerplate conversations, I would definitely ask that you reevaluate a little bit, just because there's a lot of that.
Right.
Now, again, like I want to make sure that I'm shying away from, like, say there's no way to do a podcast wrong, right? If you enjoy what you're doing and you love what you're doing, by all means. Like, I'm not here to say that people are doing a shitty job or anything like that. I hope no one takes it that way. But I really invite people to, like, kind of challenge what you're doing and figure out like why are you doing this? You know what I mean? Like, I definitely, when I, like, every day have a little bit of this conversation with myself, which is like, why am I doing this? What am I getting out of this? What am I trying to get out of doing this every single day? I'm obviously spending ample amount of time doing it, so that's a question that I need to figure out, right? And I think every day I have the same answer, which is, like, I'm getting a massive amount of fulfillment from this.
Right.
And I think that's what it's all about at the end of the day. I'm not doing this to make the MMA podcast community better. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this because I'm probably a little bit narcissistic and like the sound of my own voice. And then in addition to that, I get to, like, talk to fighters about fighting. Like, that's cool as hell. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, which I think it maybe is why I do that conversational thing. I mean, at the end of the day, like, it's all just selfish, right? It's all just like I'm self-consumed with it. But at the same time, it's kind of like capitalism 101, right? Like, you can do something selfish and still make the community around you a lot better, right? Through your self-consumption, the things around you can still grow because you're adding something to that. So I'm hoping that through my self-consumption and through just the fact that I'm basically strictly doing this to fulfill myself, but I'm still adding something to the MMA podcasting world, because I'm certainly not trying to detract from it.
Right. And I think it's like, to kind of hit on that point, man, like, I don't want to discourage anybody from doing a podcast either, but I do want to encourage people, if they're going to do a podcast, to have their own voice. Like, for me, it brings something of value. I started my podcast because I was like, like, there's too many of these, like, reporters who think they're funny or think they're entertaining, and they're not. Like, they're doing the same thing. MMA Junkie reporters doing the same thing, and MMA Reports doing the same thing, and like, all these MMA Bulletin, whatever's, they're doing the same thing. I'm super narcissistic, and I think you have to be that way to be an entertainer. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're entertaining people. I look at some podcasts, and I'm like, I'm way better than them, man. Like, and I just gotta. People are gonna go back and they're gonna be like, yo, like, but you have to be competitive. You know what I'm saying? But then also at the same time, there's a thin line, because, like, this community is a small community, and you want to be friends with as many people as you can, because everybody's just friendly. You know what I mean? Like, everybody's really, from what I've met, a great person, and everybody means to do well, and everybody needs that hand up or you get on each other's shoulders and you become a giant. You know what I mean? And so it's a weird line. The line gets blurry from being having a podcast, being an entertainer, but wanting to be part of the community. It's really weird. But these are things in like my head that go on every single day. Like I wake up and I'm like, how can I make this better? I'll go back and listen to podcasts and I'll take notes. I used to do that. Like the first 10 episodes, I would just go back and listen to it like 3 or 4 times just to be like, yo, it's not that I love my voice. I just like, what can I do better? You know, what funny points were there? I don't know, just weird stuff. I go through all my numbers. I put a lot of time, effort, and thought into this, and so that's something you can't substitute. Like if you're going to start a podcast, that's something you cannot substitute at all, and you have to open up, social media mediums everywhere. Like I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, Instagram, YouTube. Like it's insane, man. You know.
Yeah, it's a lot. I mean, so I think to kind of wrap up, what we've been saying, it's very, very time consuming, depending on what you're doing, it can be kind of pricey. I went out, and got a pretty decent mic, a decent little mic set up, and, I put more money in it. I'm fortunate to work in a professional setting, so I was able to put some money into it. Not too much, don't get me wrong.
Right.
But I was at least able to put some money into it and buy a pretty good mic, and I got some sponsors pretty quickly that invested some money into me, so I could pay to get them mixed. Because to me, the most important thing to me, and again, this isn't I'm not shouting at anybody in particular, but to me it was sound quality. When I went into it, I said, okay, I want my sound quality to be towards the tippy top. And what's the podcast? I think it's called SFLC with Mike Heck.
Oh, I like him. Yeah, I was on his show, man. He's a good guy. He's got great sound quality, man.
Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to be. That's the sound quality that I want, and I'm pretty close. As far as like my mic, obviously I have people on Skype and I have to call people, so their sound quality is not going to ever be as good, just because I can't control their settings from where I am. But as far as on my, specific podcast, I sound pretty good, and that's just because not like my
right.
My voice. The sound quality sounds good, but that's because I have people mixing it with Pro Tools. I knew going in that that's what I wanted, so I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do, and I'm learning how to do it myself now, so that way I can eventually, save some money. Thankfully, it doesn't cost that much money. I've been having, most of the time I can get it done for free through friends.
Right.
Shouldn't cost more than about $10, so it's not really that big of a deal. Man, I'm being open and honest here. Yeah, so there you go, guys. I pay people to mix my podcasts if I need to, but I'm starting to learn how to do it myself, thankfully. So to me, that was like the most important thing. Was like, all right. I think second to content, because I think at the end of the day, your content is really important. But I don't know, man. I think sound quality might trump content. Because if you can't interact, if you can't hear what's going on, it's hard to, the content doesn't really matter, right? You can't hear the content, so, or if it's like an annoying, I'm not going to call any out by name, but there was one in particular that I checked out. They added me on Twitter, so I was like, oh, cool. Anytime a podcast adds me on Twitter, I immediately go check them out. And there was one in particular that added me, and I went to go listen, and there was such a juxtaposition between their starting music and then their voice. So their starting music was ear-piercingly loud, and then when it went to their voice, it was super, 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 super quiet. I had my thing turned all the way up, and I could barely hear them.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I'm like, well, even if it's good, I can't, personally, I can't listen to it, because I don't have the attention span to, focus that hard on something that's soft, you know what I mean? So to me, sound quality was king. I was like, I have to get good sound quality. I have to just invest in it, get a good mic, get a good setup, and just call it a day, and suck it up.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. Like, that was part of the deal in mine. Like, luckily, I went to school for engineering and music shit, so I would record on Audacity. I'd transfer the file to Fruity Loops. I'm real familiar with Fruity Loops.
There you go, yep.
Bounce, mix everything down there, put intros, outros, little middle spots. Like, I'd do every single thing. And again, I'd be up till 3 o'clock. I'd have work at 9 o'clock. I'd have to make sure I wake up at 7:30. You know what I mean? Like, time, brother, time. But, I do this Facebook Live now, and it makes my life a lot easier. And I should go back and do stuff, put stuff on Stitcher, iTunes. Again, just time, man. Like, if I had a squad, a team to do it, like, Lord knows, like, I'd be all up in that. But, like, this actually, I feel like the video thing, like, people have something to see. People like it, you know what I mean? It's a new angle. It's fresh. And this Facebook Live game, man, it's like the new TV, Everybody, even when they're watching TV, they're looking at, social media and shit like that. And so they can just see me. They see a beautiful picture of me, you know what I'm saying, talking some MMA shit and drinking whatever I want to drink. And, there we go, But yeah, man, it's a weird game. And we had Roberto Villa typing in, and he said, "Welcome to my world." As far, I guess, the competitive and walking the competitive, but trying to be a part of the community. Yeah, you're a website owner. Yeah, you walk that line because you want to derive all the traffic to you, but you also want to be friendly so everybody can help you. Again, weird line. Yeah, sure, being a fighter, the same thing. You want everybody in the community to help you. You don't want them to hate you, but you still have to be competitive at the same time. It's a weird, just a weird fucking thing, man. There's not another way to explain it. It's very unique.
And I always have trouble with, reaching out. Like, when I reach out to fighters, there's this line of, like, I don't want to be cloying. I don't want to come across desperate, right? To, like, get them on my show or something. I don't know if that's how they view it. But then I also don't want to not reach out, because at the end of the day, like, that's what I want to get that person on my show. So I reach out, and I always get a little nervous when I reach out on Twitter. Like, are people thinking, like, are people seeing me reaching out to someone on Twitter and being like what a jack off, you know what I mean? Like, tagging dude on Twitter to get him on the show, but it works, it works. Like, so whatever, I guess I don't care, because at the end of the day, they're on my show, so
right.
It doesn't matter how I got them. You know what I mean?
It don't matter how you get them, don't matter how you catch a fish, as long as you catch a fish, man. That's really all.
But there is that line there where you're like, man, I don't want to be desperate, but I also want to make sure that I'm trying my hardest to make my show as good as possible. So, like, I'm going to reach out. Like, I'm going to send emails. I'm going to contact management teams. I'm not going to be annoying, but, like, I'm going to tag people in Twitter, be like, hey, I'd love to have you on the show. Like, I'm going to do that, because I think that's what you have to do to continue to grow and to continue to get better and better and get more people on your show, obviously. So, I don't really ever think about it. It doesn't bother me, but I could see maybe people see that and they're annoyed by it. I don't know.
So is that?
I'm just surmising.
Stop using big words. God damn it, man! They make me have to pull out my dictionary and shit and go back to my college days.
I'm not trying to.
No, it's all good, man. I still love you. I remember listening to that Robin Black one. These guys was just throwing around big old 8-syllable words. I'm like, I know what all these mean. Y'all better just dumb it down for me a little bit, man. Just speak my language. But no, I had a great time listening to that, man. Yeah, I mean, so it sounds like you find a lot of success on Twitter. Do you use any other social mediums? I mean, again, I have found a lot of recent success in promoting my podcast through Instagram, and obviously Facebook. Like, I love the Facebook game. I have a good niche. I feel like I have a good foundation, and it's helping me grow a lot more. But it seems like Twitter for you is a good method. Is that correct?
Twitter is definitely my number one, followed by Facebook. We've had decent little success through Facebook. I have an Instagram. I set an Instagram up. I've used it a total of one time. So I need to. I need to have more places. We have a website now that we're going to try to make a little bit more interactive when it's up and live. Loudmouthmma.com.
Oh, shout outs.
But yeah, I have an Instagram. I haven't done anything with it. And then a YouTube channel. So you can't see it. I'm just going to point to it so you can see me pointing. But behind this computer screen, there's a room that I'm currently turning into a studio. I mean, it's just going to look fancy. It's not actually going to be fancy. Like, I'm putting, like brick wallpaper up. So it looks like a brick wall, but it's just like stick-on like wallpaper.
Right.
There's like sheet from Walmart, and yeah, we're using like egg cartons from. Do you have Steak and Shake where you are?
Yeah. I'm in Austin, Texas. We got Steak and Shake here.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
But so, I know you're talking about. We used to use eggshell cartons when my boys would do. We'd have our own little home studios when we would rap back in high school, and we'd make our own little makeshift studios and use wire hangers to hold the mic. And we were like, well, we ain't got no money for insulation. We're gonna put some eggshell cartons up. So I know where you're going with that, man.
So that's what we're doing. I do have some sound panels because I've played drums for, I don't know, 10, 15 years or something. Probably closer to 15 years. That's crazy. But yeah, so I played drums for about 15 years. So I have sound paneling and a couple other things just from that have added up over the years. But yeah, so we have a nice little I bought for Black Friday, I got like a 32-inch TV for $80 or something.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, so that's gonna go on the wall for the Skype calls. So
that'd be
cool.
legit.
I'm gonna do it up, man. I'm gonna do it up in there. And again, it's gonna look at the end of the day, right? Like it's all about looks. It doesn't really matter. It's gonna look like a studio, but at the end of the day, it's a room in my basement that I spent maybe $300 building up, maybe, like maybe.
Right.
And that's not 300 at one time. That's 300 over the course of 2 or 3 months. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm just dropping on it. So you have to just be disciplined and build that up, to the best of your abilities.
Right, exactly. And I don't want people to think like you have to do all this fancy shit. Like you could literally just grab your phone, start a Facebook page, and just do Facebook Live, like I kind of do.
Just talk like this, and you could literally do a podcast straight from your phone.
Yeah, yeah. I've recorded some episodes where I recorded them and I sent them and I mixed them and I uploaded them. Like you don't need a whole bunch of fancy shit. Like
no,
you really don't.
No, a lot of advice I'm giving is, I'm realizing like what my end game is with this is basically doing. Like, I want to be a part of MMA media. I'd like to be at events. So that's kind of what my goal is. That's what my end game is, I think. Or, kind of a Mark Maron approach. Like, I would love to have fighters come to me and sit down with me in person and sit down for an hour and a half.
Like Joe Rogan, like a 3 hour long. I'd want to do 3 hour long conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Something along those lines, a little short. So, like, for me, the litmus is like Mark Maron.
Okay.
Like that's kind of I'm a big WTF fan, and so that's kind of I think what my end game is. So kind of knowing that's what my end game is, knowing that's what I'm working toward, I kind of fast tracked getting that quote unquote professional setup, right? Like, but you don't need to do that. Like,
right.
I guess, and you just addressed it, obviously, so I definitely don't want to send mixed signals. You don't need to do that. You don't need to do that at all.
But you
also need to see what your end game is. Like, what are you really trying to do with this?
Right.
What are you working toward? And then take steps every single day to get to that goal. Every single day, whether it's minute or something big and big picture, I'm making little steps toward where I want to be every single day. And I think getting that studio set up in there, like, that's the next step for me. That's the, like, you know, I'm going to do everything I can to get that set up. And, you know, and after that, we'll see. You know, I don't know what I'm going to try to do next, but, you know, I know that I can see the end here. So I'm going to do everything I can to keep working toward that.
God damn it, right, man. That's the way you want to be. Yeah, just figure out what you want to do. Like, I definitely want to do a Joe Rogan approach to this, man. Like, I definitely would love to interview fighters for 3 hours. Let them seek me out. Let them do whatever. I want to commentate fights. Like, I've got the personality to do it. Like, I feel, and I think people buy into your personality. If they're tuning into your show, they're buying into a part of your personality. And my shit's not fake. Like, I see some motherfuckers, you know, like, I don't know. I just see some motherfuckers doing podcasts, and whether they're doing media or they're creating a personality for themselves, I'm like, you look fake as fuck. Like, you're creating a stage, like, image for yourself. Like, that's probably not you. Like, you're probably not doing that silly shit, like, when you're off the podcast. Like, me, I cuss, I drink, I'll train occasional MMA. I'll go and watch, you know, fighters spar. Like, I'll do it. I'll live the life, bro. Like, that's me. You talk to me on you know, not you, but I'm just saying, people talk to me on Facebook or Twitter. Like, I just keep it motherfucking real. Like, I'll write some real shit. I'll tell you LOL when it's LOL. I throw my thumb sign and 100, like, all the time, because that's the way I feel. Like, I'm the same person in the message. I'm the same person on your podcast. And I think you kind of got that. Like, we literally met each other Saturday, but I think you felt that. Like, I'm not pretending to be somebody that I'm not, or trying to, I don't know, man. Like, just coming at with malintent. Like, that's just not me, man.
Well, I think in all aspects, I mean, authenticity is massive, and that bleeds through, man. That's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, you just alluded to it. You know, we hit it off right away, and I think you can at least feel that I'm being authentic,
right?
And I definitely feel that you're being authentic. Like, this is how I am in my everyday life. You know, this is. I'll probably come across like a little bit soft right now just because I'm tired. but for the most part, you know, I'm not fake on the podcasts, which again is why I have conversations, because I love to have conversations. That's one of my favorite things in the world to do, man. Just sit down and have a conversation about life and whatever. So I wanted to take that approach to interviews, and I've had a couple. Like, there's going to be a couple that get released that are a part of, like, larger episodes. So I had to keep the interviews like 7 and 10 minutes because there's like 4 interviews on one episode, and it was hard. It was hard, and I found myself being really, really, and, like, honest to God, like, this is how intense this is. I'm never going to do one of those shows again. I have 2 of them coming up for Invicta 21 and for World Series of Fighting, and I'm never gonna do it again. Like, because I hate having these, like, 7-minute conversations. It's not worth it to me. I would rather, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I would rather not talk to the person at all if I can only talk to them for 7 minutes.
Right.
Because there's no point. Because all I'm doing is I'm going, yeah, you know, in your first fight, you know, you had to do this, and, you know, how was that? You know, and then they're saying something, I'm going, great, well, how about this? Talk to you soon.
Right. You might as well. At that point, you might as well.
That sucks to me.
Yeah, you might as well. At that point, you might as well grow some tits, call yourself Megan O'Leary, and just paste your shit on YouTube. Like, yeah, I'm just.
More importantly, instead of listening to my show, just type that person's name into Google, because you're going to get the same information that you just got from me. So why would I do it? You know, and that's hard. That's a hard line for me to take, because sometimes you need to get that right. So when I interview, like, I just interviewed Andrew Sanchez, right? I have to talk to him, I interviewed Andrew Sanchez too, but I'm referring to Tony Martin because I interviewed him a little later. So I interviewed Tony Martin. Of course, I have to talk about his next fight, right? And of course, he's talked about his next fight with 15 different people. So I'm not saying that you have to avoid everything that they've already talked about, right? Because that's not true, because that's how you get a conversation started. But what you have to do is, when you ask about Alex White, you have to let the conversation become natural. So when they finish talking about whatever it is they're talking about, instead of looking at a list, either physically or mentally looking at a list and just moving down that list to keep the conversation going. You actually listen to what they're saying and then branch off from there. And then if you come back around, then great. And if not, then you don't. So it's like you have to just, I think, and that's a part of that authenticity. And then again, it's also about just not putting out the same information in the MMA podcast universe over and over and over again. Because these guys make their rounds on all of the various podcasts. So you got to not just keep putting out the same information after same information after same information. You have to get something unique out of there, or there's no point in talking to that person. You should just get on your podcast and say, hey, go listen to the XYZ MMA podcast, and this person was interviewed. I was going to interview him, but I have no other questions, so go check it out there. Right? You know what I mean?
Right. Go read
there's no point having this identical conversation.
Right. Go read their Wikipedia. You got everything on there that you need to know. Like, don't even listen to my show, like that type of thing, man.
And trust me, and I don't do it as much as I don't do what I'm saying as much as I want to. I definitely find myself kind of going down a line of questioning that at times feels like I'm not digging deep enough. And I want to dig a little deeper. It depends on if I know how long I have. Sometimes, again, here's kind of I don't know if this is a secret. But a lot of times when you go into an interview, you know how much time you have. So if at the end of an interview you hear me say, all right, well, I don't want to keep you too much longer here, that's because I've looked up at my clock and realized that I've gone 2 minutes over what they said they wanted to go. So I'm doing them a service by wrapping it up.
And it depends.
So that's kind of like a little behind-the-scenes thing.
Well, it depends.
But sometimes they don't care. Sometimes they don't care. I talked to... both the guys. I interviewed Andrew Sanchez and Tony Martin, like I was just talking about. I talked to them on Wednesday, and both of them were great and just went along for the ride, and I wound up talking to both of them for like 40, 45 minutes, which is really cool. Again, I think that is also something that's, unique to my podcast. I don't think you hear a lot of 45-minute conversations with fighters on most podcasts.
Well, mine and yours.
Yeah, exactly. So that's unique because that's why I think we're teaming up here, because I think we're both like doing something real similar here, but like in our own ways.
Yes, exactly.
I'm happy that we met each other because I definitely think we're there.
It's real crazy too, because you were alluding to it. I just take off on kind of tree branches. I got some root questions, and let's build the tree from there. You know what I'm saying? And I've had episodes where I used to have 4 people on the show, and it'd be a 3-4 hour long episode. I don't give a fuck who listens to it, because you're promoting it to their fans. Their fans will go and they'll listen to their part, and maybe they'll listen to the other person's part. But to me, it didn't matter. Like, I wanted all the content, and I wanted it to be. I'm gonna use Conor McGregor word, flowy. I want it to be flowy, man. And that's what's important, is having that flowiness. There's not another way to describe it, man. And that's another thing with starting, a podcast. Make sure you got personality. And if you don't got personality, bring somebody on that's got personality. You know what I mean? It's a huge thing.
Yeah, agreed. And again, I was saying this earlier. Know your strengths. Know your strengths. Know your weaknesses. When I first started, I was trying to break the cards down with either just me or with someone who had a similar amount of knowledge as me. And I realized pretty quickly that I don't have the chops for it. I do not have the chops. I do not have the knowledge to really break down fight cards. I just don't. So now I reach out to all these top DFSers and, guys like yourself who are good at analyzing. I reach out to you guys and say, hey, man, come on my podcast. Let's break this card down. And then I let you talk, and I add whatever I can add. But that way I don't have to be fake. Like, I don't have to force talking about something that I really don't know what I'm talking about, because that's what I was doing. Before, I was giving bad advice. Whether it ended up being right or wrong doesn't matter, because how I got to there was not in a good way. So it's bad. And I realized that, man, that's like, I should not do that. If I don't know something, get somebody that knows, right?
Right.
Go get the the person who knows what they're talking about. You know, these guys like Sung Soo and Stars Profit, you know, these huge DFSers, they know this stuff. They can give you stats that you couldn't even imagine. I mean, they're winning thousands of dollars on DraftKings in MMA, right? I mean, in Vegas and stuff. So, yeah, why not just have them break your fights down with you, right? Like, like I broke a 206 down with Albert Morales, you know, the guy who fought Thomas Almeida on the co-main at that São Paulo Brazil card.
Right.
Yeah, he broke down 206 for me. He had actually fought in the same circuit as one of the guys who was on the card, right? Given kind of a cool perspective. So, yeah, instead of trying to just like fake my way through breaking a card down, I went, yeah, this isn't my strength. Let's go find somebody where that is their strength, and let's get them on the show. And that's kind of, I think, what I kind of went on a rant, but that's kind of what we're talking about.
Flowy, man, flowy. And I want to add
your strengths, man. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses, build on the strengths, and once you identify your weaknesses, identify how to fix them. And a lot of times, it's not going to be anything that you can do yourself. It's going to be bringing in outside help to fill that gap.
Right, man. And while we were talking, we got some comments here. I want to read them. So Roberto said, Blake, when we met and then finally met in person, like we met over online, got invited, you know, obviously, Fightbook MMA, shout out to them, sponsor the show. But he's like, when we met, and we've had phone conversations, like when we finally met in person, nothing fake, brother. And I definitely appreciate that. We got Frank Powers in here saying, looking good, bro. So, yeah, shout out to Frank Powers, man. But, yeah, just one of those things, man. Like, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, know who you are, know who you're not, and don't try to be somebody else. It's a real scary thing when you become, you know, this entertainer. Like, I'm Blake Money Blakeweather, but I'm Blake Money Blakeweather when I walk to my car. I'm Blake Money Blakeweather when I go to the gym. I'm Blake Money. That's just me. Like, that's just who I am. I'm not some fake personality. You know, I will talk to you about MMA. You meet me in a bar. You meet me, you know, I don't know. I don't give a fuck. Meet me anywhere. Meet me in the trap. It's going down. I'll be the real same motherfucker. Either way you meet me, man. And yeah, I definitely appreciate the kudos, though, man. I was in the game. I used to analyze fights for my friends, and they were like, you should do something in MMA. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Like, that's never going to happen. So I want this podcast to not only be just for people who want to start podcasts, but for people that get that encouragement and don't have a direction to go in, and hopefully find a direction or find some inspiration from what we're talking about, you know. So, hell yeah, man. This has been a crazy little rabbit hole we gone down, brother.
That's how you do it.
That is how you do it, man. Well, let's save some stuff. I mean, let's save some podcast stuff. Let's hop into fights, man.
Yeah, let's talk about some 207.
Let's hop into some 207. You got the fight card in front of you.
I do.
Go down the first fight, and I don't know if you want to start the whole thing or just the main prelims or just the main card. You pick it. You got it in front of you. You pick it. It's your move, brother.
Well, let's just start at the tip top here. I mean, obviously you got Rousey making her return against Amanda Nunes, the current champion. I mean, there's a lot to talk about there, obviously. I mean, as of right now, since this fight was announced, okay, as soon as it was announced, I went, oh, okay, yeah, Ronda Rousey's going to get her belt back. Very cool. And then within, I would say, a day, I went, wait a minute, I'm not so sure. To where I am now, which is I'm pretty confident that Amanda Nunes is going to win.
All right, well, I'm pretty confident you're wrong, but go ahead. Tell me, enlighten me, man.
I mean, there's not too much to say. I mean, I think Rousey is much more one-dimensional than we ever imagined. Now, I understand that you can't base everything off of one loss, but I would encourage you to go back and watch the fights before Holly Holm. Now, I did not predict Holly Holm. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I did, okay? But leading up to the Holly Holm fight, when we were going through the video, I a buddy and I used to do this for DraftKings. We would go through tapes together and talk about it and make teams. And when I was going through the Rousey videos, I kept over and over and over again, I went, she is like the sloppiest looking fighter. And I get that she keeps winning, and she keeps winning in like spectacular fashion, but it's like, I mean, she's like hopping around. She's just doing weird things. And she's basically completely relying on having a strength and size advantage over most people that she's fighting, which she doesn't have over Amanda Nunes. But either way, she relies on that pretty heavily, and I think she relies on some athleticism. And Amanda Nunes is just as athletic, especially in short bursts. I understand the gassing aspect of Amanda Nunes, but I don't think that's even going to come into play anyway. I'm not that worried about it. But most importantly, the way that Ronda Rousey wins is by coming in on her. You have to play into her game plan, and I think if you do not play into her game plan, because everybody that's ever faced her has basically played into her game plan. I mean, essentially. And as long as you don't do that, which I don't know why they kept doing it, but as long as you do not do that, I think you're fine. Like, honest to God. Like, if you are able to pick her apart and not just rush in on her, I think you're going to beat her. And Amanda Nunes is a calculated striker. She's not going to just rush in on Rousey. She has more leg reach. She has a little bit of a reach advantage. She's a little bit of a height advantage. Like, I think she's... and I guess most importantly, I've said most importantly like 6 times, but most importantly, I guess for me, is that I do not trust Ronda Rousey's brain at all. I do not trust her. I don't trust that she's not going to go in there like a wild banshee and get caught herself. I think there's a legitimate argument here that Amanda Nunes could win in 90 seconds. I mean, honest to God, I do not trust Ronda Rousey's mental health. I don't trust her mental strength. I don't trust her mental health. When she was winning, she was losing her mind. And then she loses, and quite literally loses her mind. She doesn't start calling out. She doesn't even want that win back. She lost to someone for the first time, her first loss in her professional career, and she lost in spectacular fashion. And she could not give a shit less. She does not want that win back. Look at what Conor did when he lost. That wasn't even the first time he had lost. And look at how he reacted to losing. And then look at Rousey. I mean, you couldn't be more opposite. And I don't trust it. I don't trust it, and I was never that big of a fan of her in the first place, which I guess, and I understand her value. Like, she revolutionized female-oriented UFC, fighting. She revolutionized it. So I'm not, talking shit about that. I was just never a fan of her fighting style. Judo does not work in the UFC. It just doesn't. And it works for her because she built up the division. She came into the division essentially by herself and built it up. Well, Amanda Nunes is the next gen, right? That's the next gen. That's what the next gen looks like. And I think the next gen beats the old gen. And without ranting too much longer, that's pretty much all I have to say about it.
All right, well, that's interesting and all, but and then you'll be wrong, but that's okay. I still love you, Kyle. I went back to go watch the Amanda Nunes, one of her only losses in the last few years, the Cat Zingano loss. And Amanda Nunes does something very interesting every single one of her fights. Besides cutting weight, way too much fucking weight, and having it hurt her like it did during the Miesha Tate fight. Like, she didn't show because she knocked out Miesha Tate, but there was a lot of reports she was having a super fucking rough weight cut. She cuts a lot of weight. Apart from that, she does this thing where when she throws her combos, she ducks her head to try and look for the right hand. When she ducked her head, Cat Zingano kept catching it, and she's very good at this. She's very good at getting people in head control, such as Miesha Tate. When she fought Miesha Tate, even in the first round, she almost got her in a guillotine. Because Miesha Tate did the same goddamn thing. She threw an overhand right, and she moved her head straight down. And Cat got on it because Cat's a wrestler. That's a collegiate wrestler. If Amanda Nunes does that, and Ronda Rousey sees that she can find head control, which is what she needs to get her takedowns. The takedowns that Kat did on Kat Zingano, they weren't double legs, they weren't single legs, which is what Amanda Nunes seems to defend off against everybody. Misha Tate, Shayna Baszler, Sarah McMahon, the list goes fucking on and on. She can defend those double legs and single legs. But when she loses head control, or when you lose head control, that's something you don't want to do in judo. That's what she does, though. She abandons her judo, and she's okay with going to the ground because she feels like her black belt is going to save her there. In a lot of fights it has, and she's helped dominate control, but just in that one fight with Kat Zingano, somebody who's not a black belt in jiu-jitsu, Amanda Nunes had trouble passing the guard. Amanda Nunes wasn't looking for better position. She was looking to ground and pound from open guard and closed guard. She just wasn't looking for those positions. And Kat Zingano was finding better positions to get out of half guard, went into full guard when she was on bottom. Looking for locks, looking for just finding the better position. And so I think that's what's going to happen in this fight. Like she might get a hit off on Rousey, and she might go in for the kill at that point. She, as much as you want to say she's a technician, which I might agree to a certain degree she is, she is a headhunter to another degree. She is a striker to another degree. She is a bring it to your face type fighter if you don't bring it to hers. And if you get close enough, of course, she'll throw leg kicks and all that good stuff. But it's going to be something where whoever goes at each other first is going to get their attack off. Whether it's Rousey getting close enough to Nunes and then getting the fucking judo toss, which is why I was saying she defends the double legs and single legs really well, but she does not defend upper body takedowns, which is where all really Kat Zingano got her down with, was just these weird.
Yeah, but that has to be where the only way that Rousey wins is with that throw. So she comes from a smart camp. They're training for that. I mean, that's what they're doing. Now, I get it. I'll say this, unequivocally, and right or wrong, this is the toughest fighter that Rousey has faced.
Outside of Holly Holm?
Holly Holm was not her toughest fight.
But she lost, so that's hard to say.
She lost, but that wasn't her.
It was her toughest fight because she fought a fighter that, one, knew her game plan. Two, I told my girlfriend, literally, like, she was a huge Ronda Rousey fan. I'm going to tell you this. And it was the day of the fights, and we picked up our friends. And it was our friend's birthday. We were going out to a brewery, and they're like, what do you think of that? Everybody's getting ready for the Holm Rousey fight. And this was, again, the day of the fight, so I'd already watched the weigh-ins, and they were like, well, what do you think of this Holm girl? I'm like, there's two girls that can beat Ronda at this point. There's Holly Holm, and there's Cyborg Santos. And I was going for Ronda, but I'm like, you know what? The more and more I keep thinking about this throughout that day, like, I wasn't even having a good time while we were drinking because I was thinking so bad that Ronda could lose that fight. Like, that's how serious this game is to me. And I was like, Ronda could lose this fight tonight. And that was a tough fight for her because Holm is a striking technician. Like, she is the definition of technician. Like, somebody that will wait patiently. It's very much a boxer's mentality who's a great technician, like a Floyd Mayweather. And I'll give you the difference. Like, it's not a Floyd Mayweather Maidana, but it's something to the level of that because you have two different type of fighters. You have people who are technicians that wait for the action to come to them and they find the openings and then they make something happen with it. Then you have a brawler like a Maidana factor that makes the openings happen. Doesn't matter if they get hit or don't get hit. And this is, I'm going to allude back to this fight with the Dominic Cruz and Cody Garbrandt fight, but you have basically those two type of fighters. And Holly Holm was the type of fighter that would lay back in the cut, wait for you to make those mistakes, and then capitalize. Wait for you to make those mistakes, make you look silly. Wait for those mistakes, and if you try to get close enough, she had the defense for the upper body throw, and she even reversed Ronda and took her down. Can that happen with Amanda Nunes? Is she training for that? Yes, yes, and yes, and yes. But it's a different thing when you're in there with somebody who's an expert at that. Like all these bitches knew as Ronda Rousey's coming up, she's going to get him an armbar. She's going to get him an armbar. She's going to get him an armbar. Wasn't shit they could do about it, though. Like all these fighters who train, and again, I'm going to come back to Mayweather. Again, my nickname, Money Blackweather, I got to do it. They knew he was going to hit him with the right hand, even if they were southpaw orthodox. There wasn't shit they could do about it. They might have trained at all their camp. Not shit you could do about it because you're going to get hit with it. It's like you fight a wrestler, somebody who fights Ben Askren. You can train takedown defense all you want to. You can be a collegiate wrestler. You're going to get taken down, though. Like, that's bottom line. It's going to happen, and whether you like it or not, it's something that's going to... You have to train to get out of that. Or you have to train... Once that happens, what are you going to do when you're in that bad position? Because you're probably going to be in the bad position. Is Ronda Rousey with the best camp? No. Is she has a best mind state? We don't know yet. We don't know yet. Quite honestly, that's the X factor as far as the downfall of Ronda. Like, that's a huge X factor. And again, we got some comments again from Roberto Villa. He's saying Amanda's going to run through Ronda, and he also says Ronda's boxing is phenomenal. Not. I get it. Her boxing is not phenomenal, but is it good enough to get on the inside of Amanda Nunes? She did it. She did it all the time. I think it is. I can see you shaking your head, even though you can't see me. I can see you. But is Amanda Nunes wild enough to come in and get taken down at the same time? Yeah. She really is. She's shown it before against somebody who's a great upper body takedown artist, such as it's Kat Zingano. And Kat Zingano's not known for her wrestling, quite honestly. She's known for her grinding, and she's known for her Muay Thai. Like, up until the Amanda Nunes fight, everybody forgot she had wrestling. So she is prone to upper body throws. And in judo, upper body throws is something that is just predominantly what you do. You do these upper body throws. These hip tosses, the head arm toss, you know what I'm saying? That's predominantly what they do. This is why I think Ronda Rousey's going to win. And honestly, it can end in the first 90 seconds with Amanda Nunes. It can end in the first 90 seconds with Ronda Rousey. It can go either way in that regard, but I'm going with Ronda Rousey just based on some of the film that I saw. And I could be wrong, but I'm probably not going to be, but I could be wrong. Who knows, man?
I'll definitely say, I agree. Like, it could go either way, for sure. I'm not going to sit here and say that, Rousey going into that Holly Holm fight, was what, 10, 11 and 0? 10 or 11 and 0. I don't remember.
It was 11 and 0. Yeah, it was 11 and 0 because she's 11 and 1 right now.
And I believe all of them being finishes, maybe with the exception of one. But yeah, so because I'm not looking at her record, but anyway.
No,
so
she had never gone to decision. She had never gone to decision, and she'd only won 2 fights by TKO. I guess it was the Beisha Hera and Alexis Davis. 3 fights by TKO and the Sarah McMahon. So 3 fights by TKO. The rest of them were all by submission.
I would argue that she was facing all of those people at the exact right time to be facing them. And I guess most importantly, first of all, I want to backtrack a little bit. If we're really going to go down the line of if we're really going to go with the argument that Holly Holm is truly the toughest person that Ronda Rousey has faced, and that is why the Holly Holm beat her, and it wasn't because she got caught or anything like that, then unequivocally she's going to lose to Amanda Nunes. Just unequivocally, really no point in even having a conversation. Because Amanda Nunes, I think Amanda Nunes would chop Holly Holm's head off and march down the street with it. It's 2 different classes of human beings.
But to play devil's advocate, I say Holly Holm is her toughest test because she hasn't faced Amanda Nunes yet, so we have no idea.
But I also think that, I think that speaks to kind of why that kind of old gen versus new gen. Like, Rousey built that division, and everyone was just in her wake. And part of why I think she was able to win the way that she won is because there was this mystery there, right? Like, how can you solve this Rousey puzzle that really wasn't even a puzzle, right? It was, don't rush in on her. It's not even a puzzle. It's really, really simple. But people kept doing it because she could get into your head. Well, I think after that loss, and most importantly, the loss is what it is. Most importantly, the way she responded to that loss was horrific. And all of that mystique is gone now. All of that mystique is gone. Amanda Nunes is not scared of her. By any stretch.
Well, she's from Brazil. She ain't scared of shit anyways. Like, she's never been scared of none of her opponents.
You know what I mean? I would say you could put a couple other people, replace their names as well. Like, they're not scared of Rousey anymore. Like, that mystique is gone. You know, and I think that plays a huge role here. To see her get beat by somebody who, and I know we're talking about Holly Holm, but at the end of the day, Holly Holm is middling. She's middling. I mean, she barely beat Raquel Pennington. She barely. Some would argue she didn't win. You know, she had a much more decisive victory in the next fight against, what was it, Mary Nurnell?
Mary Nurnell, yeah.
Then, you know, and then obviously she gets the home.
The Ronda Rousey fight, yeah.
Gets the huge Rousey victory, obviously. You know, and then she goes on and to lose to Tate, and I mean, she won a round or two in there, and I guess, but still didn't look great, and then looked like complete horseshit against Shevchenko. So, she's middling, you know what I mean? A middling fighter took out Ronda Rousey, and in doing so, crumpled Ronda Rousey's mind to where she couldn't even deal with it. I mean, there's reports, you know, I think from our boy Robin Black, you know, when Rousey walked off that stage at that, like, weird, like
205, yeah.
That 205 thing, where she goes backstage and she's unconsolable. That is just not the part. No one is scared of her anymore. Anyone who's hearing this stuff is like, she's done. She's done, and no one's scared of her. Now, that could end up playing in Rousey's favor, right? Because at the end of the day, she still is scary. She's a very scary fighter. She is a judo practitioner, and yeah, it doesn't work in a lot of other. It doesn't work, you know, almost anywhere else in the UFC, but because she's so dominant and she's in a division that's, you know, relatively weak, it has worked for her. So it could absolutely work, you know, super, super well here. And she could get that judo throw and blah, blah, blah. Like, I get it. I see the path here. I'm just saying Rousey has never – this is her toughest opponent, I think. Just in the offset. And you're right, we haven't seen it yet, so it's really hard to say that. So I get that, like I'm being a little too predictive. But I think on paper and just looking at their styles, like this is her toughest opponent. And her second toughest opponent is her mind. And her third toughest opponent is Edmund Tarvarian. You know, and I just... She doesn't even have a camp. I mean, literally, she doesn't have a camp.
Well, no,
I don't know why
she has a camp.
And it didn't matter before. I get that. It didn't matter before.
But
I know she hasn't.
She has a camp, but it's built around her. This is why you don't have fighters that do well. Like when, again, I'm going to bring it back to Floyd Mayweather. When Floyd Mayweather had his camp, there was other fighters who were fighting out of the camp, but nobody knew them because they kept losing. Like, there's a camp that's built around a fighter. You might not get paid all the attention to that you need. So Edmund may be great in his own way for Ronda. Like, I don't agree that she should be there. Quite honestly, I think she should be somewhere else. But if he's what's good for her, and another thing, if I'm Ronda and I lost my fight, I'm not gonna come back unless I can think I can beat somebody. So I swear, like when she saw Amanda Nunes probably get the belt, like she was probably like, "Oh, that bitch, I can beat that bitch." You know what I'm saying?
That's a valid argument.
I would not. If I'm Ronda, I'm not coming back if I don't think it's an easy win for me to get my belt back. Quite honestly, like if Holly Holmes had the belt, maybe I'm doing Fast and Furious 800. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know, man. You know, like I don't know, but I think that's another thing to add into this. Like, if we're gonna add in mindsets and all this other nonsense, like I won't say nonsense,
the other thing though is
all these other factors, but like, if she didn't feel she could come and win this, like, I don't think she'd come back.
No, and that's valid. That's a valid argument. I mean, I think the problem though is, first of all, I think she's wrong in her assessment, but I mean, when she was off, you know, trying to do the acting, you know, guess what Amanda Nunes was doing?
Training. Yeah.
Training. You know what I mean? Like, when Ronda Rousey was off, I mean, literally talking about killing herself, and because she lost a fight, like what was Amanda Nunes doing? Training to get the belt, and then getting it. You know, her mind. That's the big thing here, is her mind. And the other thing is, I do not trust a coach who, in that Rousey fight, in that second round, is going, all right, Rousey. You know, I mean, you know exactly where I'm going with this. You're winning on the feet. You're winning on the feet.
You're doing good. Yeah, you're doing good.
You're doing great. Like, what are you? If I'm the coach of the corner, I'm like, hey, Rousey, sweetheart, stop boxing with her. She's a boxer. Don't do that. That's dumb. Take her down. You know what I mean? Like, but no, it's like, yeah, you're winning on the feet. And then after that, you know, he's in the corner of his, his boy Travis Brown when he loses to Verdum and decides to attack Verdum. I mean, like, that person doesn't. It's hard to say because he was with her when she was dominating. So there's this recency bias, and Travis Brown was kind of dominating at one point too. He wasn't dominating, but you know what I mean? Like, he was definitely winning some big fights.
I mean,
so it's hard. There's some recency bias here where you're like, you can't completely talk shit about the person who, at the end of the day, was with this person when she was on her iconic rise. The problem, though, is I think he was a hindrance much more. Like, I think she was destined for that iconic rise with or without him. And at the end of the day, she is accomplishing this despite him and not because of him.
I'm with you.
But I think her confidence is shook to a point that she's going to start probably taking more advice from him than she normally would, and that's absolutely going to be the death of her, because there's nothing good that's going to come out of his mouth in preparing for this fight. He has nothing to offer positive.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on just I can see the degree that you're saying this too, but I also want to touch on the Travis Brown point. Like, let's kind of be honest. Edmund Tavarian has not helped Travis Brown win any kind of fights. I mean, he because the only win that he has is that Matt Mitrione fight, where he really didn't. He didn't really. Won. Yeah, he basically lost. He basically eye poked his way to victory. You know, let's kind of be honest. You know, and without that, like, he was losing that first round to me. And he should have lost a whole bunch of points to me, but I'm not a referee. What do I know? But I mean, without eye pokes, Edmund Tavarian has no wins. You know what I'm saying, with Travis Brown. This is what I'm saying. Like, Edmund is a coach. He's only a coach for Ronda. Whatever. You're right. I think she was destined for greatness with or without Edmund. But he helped her get to those wins. So he knows how to speak to her to some degree, and I think he was trying to reach that in the home fight. Whether it worked or not, obviously not. But why he did it, we'll fucking never know. Like, there's some connection them two have. Me and you don't even need to understand. We don't need to get to that point. But that's a big hindrance, I think. And look, I use a big word, goddammit. That's a big hindrance as far as Ronda Rousey getting the win in this fight. You're right, but I still, I think to wrap it up, I'm still gonna lean. There's not a way you're gonna convince me to lean with Ronda. To lean with Nunes. I gotta go with Ronda on this one. And if anybody has any thoughts, definitely comment them. But you got Nunes, I got Rousey. I'm gonna win, but we'll see who's gonna win. But I'm gonna win. But we're gonna see who's gonna take the win.
Real quick, so we'll wrap this up here. We're gonna do a little bet here, okay?
Okay.
You obviously got Rousey. I got Nunes. All right.
Okay.
If you lose for 2 straight days, you can only speak in capital letters on your personal social media.
That's probably pretty fine. Like, people would not find that unnormal.
Is that fair?
That's pretty. Yeah, I'm okay with that, because again, the people would, knowing me, people are like, all right, whatever.
You just keep speaking in capital letters. It'd probably be much more weird for me. So that's what we'll do. So for 2 straight days, if it's comments, if it's statuses, it doesn't matter what it is. You can only type in capital letters.
All right, I'm with you, man. 2 straight days. I got you.
2 straight days. All right. So I'm taking Nunes. You're taking Rousey.
Yes, sir.
So we can just go through the main card here. Probably don't need to go through the rest of them, but let's go through the main card at least, man.
Yeah. You got Dominic Cruz and Cody Garbrandt. I know that's the next one.
Yeah. This is this is Dominic Cruz. I mean, it's and I mean to put it to oversimplify it, but I think you need to oversimplify it. You know, to oversimplify this, first of all, Garbrandt really hasn't faced anybody. At least not really. He certainly hasn't faced anybody that is even remotely on the level of Cruz. I would feel a lot better about Garbrandt had he been going into this fight with a Dillashaw or Lineker win, right? Had he beaten either one of those two people,
right.
I would be feeling a little bit better, but I still would be picking Cruz regardless. But to oversimplify this, you know, let's Barney this. Cruz's like world-renowned bet to defend Garbrandt's only strength. Like, it's pretty much that easy. Cruz's, like, the thing that he is world famous for, so to speak, is, you know, and probably one of the best in the UFC at, right, is defending Garbrandt's only weapon.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's that easy, right? I mean, I think for people who are betting and everything, just don't overthink this. Don't overthink this. Like, I get the hype. I get Garbrandt has power. I get it. But don't overthink this. Like, there is no reason for Cruz to lose here. Now, it's fighting, and at the end of the day, Garbrandt has a lot of power. So, I understand that he could catch Cruz. Like, I get it. But I highly doubt it. I mean, and this is, you know, like you say those things like, oh, if Garbrandt wins, you know, I wouldn't be surprised or whatever. I'm picking Cruz, but I wouldn't be surprised if Garbrandt wins.
No.
I would
shocked shit myself, yeah.
I'd be shocked. Now, I'm leaving some wiggle room here and saying, like, I get it. Like, he has a lot of power. I get it. And if he catches a weird angle, you know, because that is kind of what he's known for, right? Like, he can get kind of some weird angles, and if Cruz isn't paying attention, he could get caught with something. I get that. But I would be absolutely, to use one of those $6 million words, I'm flabbergasted. I would be absolutely flabbergasted if Garbrandt was able to pull this off.
There you go.
And if he does, good for him. Good for him. But I don't see it.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And again, we got a new Facebook comment from Nick Adams. He said, Kyle, you are my spirit animal. P.S. Ronda is washed up. When the ego left, so did the fighter. But I still don't think her ego left. That's why she does what she does. But we will see, man. We will see. Ronda, obviously, on the Cody fight and the Cruz fight. And I'm with you, man. I'm a huge technician fan. Obviously, if my nickname's Money Blakeweather, I'm a huge Mayweather fan. I love technician in any sport, any combat sport, I should say. And so I told people this, and I don't know if you're a boxing fan or not, but I tell people, like, I was on the Party Shop podcast, I was like, this is going to be a fight that's going to be similar to Mayweather versus Maidana. You got a technician, a guy who does not get hit, a guy whose defense is just, he just doesn't get hit. It's not that it's impregnable. It's just, you just can't hit him. He's not there for you to hit him. Versus a guy who's got tattoos and got a strong right hand. Like, that's really all this is. And
he has decent wrestling, but he's not even close to where Dominic Cruz is as far as wrestling.
Right.
So, yeah, there's no real pathway to victory here. And I think people are going to overthink this. I think people are going to overthink this. They're going to make way too many arguments on both sides, and everyone's just going to overthink this thing. This is Cruz's fight to lose, and it shouldn't even be close.
No.
Cruz should go in there and just absolutely make Garbrandt look like a child. I mean, that's what should happen here.
Yes. I think that
may not be what happens, but that's what should happen.
And I predict, the silliness is I think it's going to go all 5 rounds, but I think a lot of the silliness is going to come in the later rounds, 3, 4, 5, where he's just going to make him miss, look silly, get frustrated. You know, Garbrandt's going to go in, try to throw heavy, miss some more. And if anybody wants to do some, technical work and take a look at what Dominic Cruz has to offer, his style is not solely based. A lot of people, he does an ollie shuffle, it does this. if everybody goes back, go and watch some old Willie Pep highlight videos or even breakdown videos of Willie Pep. You'll see Dominic Cruz base his whole style for Willie Pep. It's a guy that switches stances, a guy that controls the wrist, a guy that's able to move out of the way, and he predicts what punches you're going to throw based on the control of the other side. So if he's controlling your left side, he knows you obviously have to throw something from your right. So he's out of position of your right. Whether it's and now Cruz has brought that to MMA. So whether he knows you're going to shoot from the right side, throw a kick from the right side, throw a straight from the right side, he just moves his head that right way and then switches the angle on you before you know it. And there's nobody to emulate it anymore at the Alpha Fail camp. And so had to throw that in there. So yeah,
I'm an alpha male apologist.
Well, I'm a Cruz supporter, so fuck the business. I love alpha male, except for this fight. They're alpha fail, and if you're gonna pick a podcast to go on for this fight, don't go. You go on Loudmouth. Don't have to go on mine. I don't care. I'm about as unapologetic as it gets, but I keep it real. But I got to go with Cruz on this one. So yeah, man.
I mean, the closest thing that they ever had to trying to emulate Cruz was Dillashaw, and he's not even there anymore.
What? And Dillashaw was actually, so it's funny you bring that up because he was 3 of the guys' training partners for their fight where they fought Dominic Cruz. This is why he got so good at it. He was Joseph Benavidez, he was Uriah Fabers for 2 camps, and then he was also who was the other guy who fought out of there from Alpha Fail? God damn it, man. I can't think of the other guy. He was their main guy. Every time they needed somebody like Dominic Cruz emulate, they brought in Dillashaw because he was the same size. And so that's why he got so good at emulating that, because that's what he did in training. So, interesting fact, man.
Yeah, and Garbrandt doesn't even have that resource. So, and even if he did have the resource, like you said, I mean, there's nobody to emulate it. Again, we're probably even spending
too much time talking about it.
I mean, yeah, it's just like people. I think people are just going to completely overanalyze this. They're going to overanalyze this, and they're going to talk themselves out of, like on DraftKings, they're going to talk themselves out of a chalk play. Cruz is a chalk play here.
Yeah.
You pick him, and you don't question it. And if you're wrong, you didn't arrive to the answer the wrong way. You just so happen to not be right, if that makes sense. But at the end of the day, like, you don't overthink this. You know?
Right, for sure, man, for sure, yeah.
Now, the next fight is much... This one is...
Well, not if you're Mexican.
Yeah, well, we may not even want to talk about this one too much because it may not even happen.
Well, we'll see. I'm Mexican, so I got to go with Kane, but...
Kane, Velasquez all day. Even with the injury, I'm still going Kane. If Velasquez came in a wheelchair, I'd probably pick him because he was on his way to winning that first fight. We all know the narrative about C-level Kane and so on, and now it's THC Kane. We all know the level. We all know the C-level Kane, or you know what I mean.
Meme, yeah. We all know, yeah.
The non-C-level Kane, I guess, should be what I'm saying. But we all know that story. It's tired. We don't need to talk about that one too much. But what people may not remember, or if you haven't actually seen the fight, is that Velasquez wasn't dominating, but he was a close first round. He won the second round, and he probably won the first round too on some level. Although I think he might have lost the second towards the end of it.
I thought so, yeah.
He was really gassing out. I mean, you could just tell. When he walked to the corner, he looked like he was a puppet. Like somebody was just dangling him with strings, and he was just like, his body was moving all weird, trying to get over to the corner. He was so gassed. And that is not how he has ever looked before. It's not how he ever looked before. It's not how he's ever looked since. So I think at the end of the day, Verdum kind of got away with something there, and I don't think it's going to happen again. So... Now, and even with that, we don't know how severe this injury is, so I would be nervous about going all in on Cain Velasquez here, like in Vegas and on DraftKings. Be very nervous about going all in, just because you really don't know the severity. I mean, he already has this surgery scheduled. I mean, so obviously, and I get it's like bone spurs or something. It's not necessarily that big of a deal. I mean, it's painful, but it's not anything he can't work through. So I get that. But you really don't know. You don't know how intense it is. So,
yeah, no, I'm with you, man. AKA is just known for injuries, and so hopefully,
and it's not
hopefully he doesn't.
Cormier and
It's that wrestler mentality. I was explaining to somebody earlier, I'm like, they just train, but they don't rehabilitate themselves as well as they should because they got that. They're all wrestlers. Khabib is a wrestler. DC is a wrestler. Kane is a wrestler. They all come from a wrestling background where it's work, and the rehab is not too long. And they overwork themselves, overtrain themselves all the time. But I'm Mexican, so if anybody's Mexican out there watching and you're not going with Kane, lose my number real quick. That's all I'm saying.
And then for the next fight, then, this is. I'm kind of taking. Here, I don't want to take control on your podcast.
No, you're doing it, man. No,
don't you take control. Don't let me take.
You better keep going.
For the next one, this is kind of funny fight for me because it's a worse. This is not a literal comparison. I'm not being literal, but this is a worse version of Cruz versus like a better version of Garbrandt. Right? Like that's kind of what this fight is. It's a Bobo version of Cruz versus like probably a little better, a little harder hitting version of Garbrandt.
Yeah, it's basically what discount Cruz and evolved Garbrandt is what we're looking at.
There
man.
You go. But it's not like the like for Pokemon, like it's one of the Pokemons where like it evolves into like something that's like worthless. You know what I mean? Like it's not really a super evolved something. I mean, it's just I think Lineker has more power, and I think Lineker has probably a little bit more. Garbrandt's probably a little bit more technical, but I would say it's outweighed by I think Lineker has more power. Regardless. Dillashaw, you know what I mean. The comparison's still the same.
Same pick.
And I still lean Dillashaw.
Yeah, I do too.
I still think that technical ability it makes all the difference. And Dillashaw is on a fucking warpath right now. I mean, he got passed up. First of all, there's an argument to be made that he lost that first fight. Not the Dillashaw fight. There's an argument there that he lost. Now, I'm not saying that he did, but that's how close of a fight that was.
You talking about Cruz?
The Cruz Dillashaw fight.
Yeah. Now, there's an argument. I'm with you.
I have Cruz winning that fight. I don't disagree with the judges. I think it was absolutely had split decision written all over it. I get it. But I mean that was an extremely close fight, and I think if you put Lineker in there, it's not even remotely close to that. Now, we're doing some kind of funky MMA math, and I get that. But it is worth noting that, like, Dillashaw is an elite-level talent in the 135 and should be fighting Cruz right now. Because Cruz barely beat him the first time. Now, it's not super fresh, and if he beats Garbrandt and if Dillashaw beats Lineker, it's a little bit better of a storyline for them to fight again. So, I agree. I'm okay with it. But yeah, Dillashaw, I think, is just better in Lineker in basically every way except for the power.
Hey, Kyle.
Sorry, yep.
Kyle, you got some popping noise coming from your side, man. I don't know what that is.
Oh. Give me
some static or something. I don't know what's going on. Try it again. Try speaking.
All right. Is it back?
It's still there. I don't know. It's really weird. Like, it'll probably go away. Like, it was like that on the podcast the other night. Like, there was some static, and then it just kind of went away. I don't know what it is.
It could be my connection.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll chalk it up to that. But yeah, man. I'm with you there, though. I think Dillashaw. Yeah, he could have arguably won that fight. I know he's back to try and get that belt as mad as he can, and I think he just takes this one. I think footwork will outbeat power again. I think Lineker is a littler, faster version of Cody Garbrandt with more power. You're right, and them two, when they both lose, they can fight each other. Who cares?
That would be the next fight to make. If Garbrandt loses, that's not going to sound any better, by the way.
No, it's still doing electronic. I don't know what it is, man. It's really weird.
Sucks.
It's like it sounds almost like a robot, like a reverb robot.
Yeah, that's happened before.
I don't know if you want to unplug your thing and then replug it in. Would that work?
Good. No, start talking
What's the next fight?
Smoke Borg.
Oh, Smoke and Borg. All right. I'm a huge Ray Borg fan, and I'm super biased because I met him in Albuquerque, and yeah, man, I just think he outworks Smoka, and I have a thing against Smoka too because he beat my boy Patty Houlihan back like I don't know, a year and a half ago. So I have a super bias toward this fight. Oh my God, look at that! That jacket looks sexy. The Bagels jacket looks sexy. But this is just so funny talking while I see your jacket. All right, talk again. You still good? Can you hear me?
Do I sound better?
Oh my God, you sound so much better.
It's magic.
There we go, man. But yeah, I'm going Ray Borg just biasly, and just because I mean his nickname is Taz Mexican Devil, man. Like he's like that. He's a grinder. He's a worker. I think he just outgrinds Smoka 3 rounds. And a lot of people, I think a lot of people sleep on Ray Borg, man. I get it. It's like Smoka is dangerous. Don't fuck with him. But like, man, Ray Borg's so young. He's tenacious and yeah, just overall nice guy. I'm super biased in this fight though.
Yeah, I lean Samoka, but I don't feel. I mean,
confident.
I wouldn't even try to make too much of an argument because I wouldn't be able to support it.
Right, exactly. But yeah, man. Well, that sounds like our fights for this card, man. It's been quite the long podcast. I know it's almost 1:00 where you're at, man. So
it is.
We'll kind of wrap it up neatly, like a nice little whiskey drink, brother. Give out a shout out where people can find you online, and hopefully we could do some more of these in the coming year. But just shout out where people can find you online. Any sponsors you got? The floor is yours, man.
Yeah, for sure. Am I still sounding okay?
No, you sound beautiful. You sound like an angel.
Fantastic. Well, I guess first off, I do want to give a shout out to my sponsors, the Harmony Acres Soap Company. They are fantastic, little grassroots business out of North Carolina, family owned. They're really awesome. They've been great to me. And also In the Loop Sports. That's the letter N, theloopsports.com. They're going to start doing write-ups on the podcasts, which was something that I knew that I wanted to have happen, and they approached me and basically offered that to me without me going to them. So that was pretty cool how that worked out.
There you go.
So that way, some of the information in the podcast you can read. If you're not able to listen to it, you can read it and then be like, oh, I want to go listen to that one or whatever. So yeah, we're gonna have a great partnership with them. So I'm really looking forward to that one. Okay, so find me on social media. It's Loudmouth MMA on Twitter and on Facebook. The website is loudmouthmma.com. The Instagram is Loudmouth MMA. However, like I said, I don't do anything with it yet, but I'm going to. That's definitely what I want to do. I need to start doing that. I need to get better at my Instagram game. My wife, that's like all my wife uses. Like my wife barely uses her Facebook anymore. She always uses her Instagram. So apparently all the kids are doing it now. So
all the Pokemon kids are talking about it.
All the kids are doing it now. So I guess I gotta do it too. But yeah, dude, thanks for having me on. It was an absolute blast. Obviously, the podcast is called Loudmouth MMA. I really love, much like Blake, I really love what I'm doing, and I hope that bleeds through in the interviews. I just really, really enjoy doing this. And yeah, thanks for having me on.
Brother, anytime, man. We'll hopefully do this more again the coming year, and try to do this for a lot more cards, man. It's been a pleasure having you on, Kyle. I'm going to let you get to sleep now, man. Thank you so much for coming on, and have a good rest of the night, and a Merry Christmas, brother.
Yeah, thank you. We'll talk soon.
All right, man. You have a good night. Peace.
Bye.